Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Monday night Facebook Live. I am Laura Betts. I am the Oxygen Lady. And as always, we cover a ton of topics here. And tonight's topic, we're going to be talking about what is a Herx. And people that are familiar with hyperbaric oxygen therapy at the clinical level, if you don't know what a Herx is when you first start working at the clinic, you'll definitely know in a short period of time. So I'm going to do a little education about what is a Herx and talk about that and share some data. So again, hello, welcome. My name is Laura Betts. I am founder and facility director of Hyperbaric RX down here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Now we are located off Commercial Boulevard in Fort Lauderdale, and it's really hard to do hyperbaric oxygen therapy over the phone, but we do telehealth all over the world. We have many people that have their own systems or are working at another anti-hyperbaric facility, and we're helping to fill in that portion of their program. I do sit on a couple of medical boards. I am a longtime member of the Anti-Diving and Hyperbaric Medical Board. I also sit on the IHMF board. And Hyperbarics RX is an anti-training and research site. So we have lots of data here. We have cutting edge information, and we use that to personalize our programs to help create the best opportunity for efficacy. So again, thank you so much for joining me. I'm doing Facebook Lives every Monday at 6 o'clock. And this is a great opportunity for you to ask questions real time in the chat. If you know somebody that has some questions about their health, if they're thinking about doing hyperbaric oxygen therapy, this is a great opportunity for them to get some information. And of course, again, they can ask us questions real time in the chat. So again, thank you so much for joining us this evening. And I am going to talk about some products tonight. And of course, as always, this information is provided for general educational purposes. Our products are not intended to treat, cure, diagnose, or prevent any disease. We're just sharing some data here. So again, welcome. So tonight's topic, we're going to get into it. What is a Herx? Understanding a Jarisch Herxheimer reaction. And I specifically want to talk about how it relates to hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Now, last week, by the way, I did do a topic on can I bring my cell phone inside the hyperbaric chamber? We talked a little bit about facility operations, and we talked about some safety considerations. And this is, of course, a big piece of it all. So let's talk a little bit about a Herx. And first of all, let's talk about what is it? So a Jarisch Herxheimer reaction, it sounds bad, but in itself, it's actually a very good thing. And a Jarisch Herxheimer reaction is often used as a marker in older approaches to designate that the antibiotic was working. Way back when in older hyperbaric oxygen therapy days, before we had some of the cutting information that we use here at our clinic, we used to use the Herx as a diagnostic. And if you had a scenario where somebody had tested negative for Lyme disease, and testing for Lyme is problematic, there's some problems with the labs. If they had tested for Lyme and we were getting inconclusive data and they really seemed like they had Lyme, before they would start a course of hyperbaric treatment, they would do a short course of intensive hyperbaric therapy. And the goal of that was to produce a Jarisch Herxheimer reaction. The layman's term for that is Herx. Now, again, I want to make the point here that Jarisch Herxheimer reaction, at least here at our clinic, this is older information. We don't have to Herx anymore. We can do better. And the Herx is a sign of another issue that also needs to be handled. And in chronic conditions, complex cases, it's very, very likely that the person has what we call overloaded drainage pathways. Now, hyperbaric oxygen therapy is amazing. It is a broad spectrum bactericide. It has oncocidal properties, meaning it's destructive to certain types of cancer cells. And it also supercharges the white blood cells, the leukocytes. So it does a very good job of killing these bad guys. And one of the reasons why it's so beneficial is because antibiotics in complex cases become problematic because the antibiotics can cause organ and tissue damage. So the challenge here is we want to kill these bugs, but we don't want to kill the soldiers. We don't want to damage the immune system. So this is where hyperbaric can be very valuable because it only supports the immune system. It only hurts the bad guys, the bad bugs, the bad bacteria, and the good stuff, the good bacteria in our gut is a neutral. The hyperbaric doesn't kill it and it doesn't make it bloom. Whereas in the case of an antibiotic or a lot of other therapies, that runs into play. And because hyperbaric can cause such a broad spectrum kill, right? It can kill all these bad guys better than an antibiotic. And unlike an antibiotic that has to be typed. So different antibiotics have different mechanisms of action. And what's supposed to happen is we're supposed to find out what kind of bacteria we're trying to kill. But in a lot of cases, what ends up happening is they just broad spectrum, they just take a guess, they just throw an antibiotic at it. The antibiotic is not necessarily typed for the bacteria that they're trying to kill. And that's part of the reason why we have some of the lack of efficacy that we do. That's some of the reason why we get some of the challenges that we run into. And this is part of the reason why hyperbaric is so beneficial, because if you've got somebody with a complex case that's got different bugs, multiple bugs, and you can't treat each one of those with a complete course of antibiotics without causing other damage to the organs, specifically liver and kidneys, and it doesn't do so great for the gut either. Hyperbaric isn't going to do that. So really neat here. So the kill, however, it's easier to kill these guys than it is to drain. And detox and drainage are not the same thing. And when we overload drainage pathways because we are detoxing too fast, this is what produces the Jarisch Herxheimer reaction. And again, there was a time in hyperbaric medicine that it went hand in hand. I remember this is 10, 15 years ago now, where people undergoing Lyme therapy, they would be so sick from the Jarisch Herxheimer symptoms, they could barely get through the door to the clinic. But they're going, yep, look how good I'm getting. Look how much better I'm getting, as they're crawling on the floor. So let's talk a moment about what are these Herx symptoms. And a point that I want to make is these Herx symptoms are often misdiagnosed. In the magical world of symptom management, there's an awful lot of things that can produce these symptoms. So one of the things that we see often here in our clinical practice is that complex cases, the root cause of a lot of their symptoms is the die-off, the detox reaction, the overloaded drainage pathways from these pathogens that are no longer alive, but the leftover toxic cellular waste, the leftover byproduct, what's left over after you kill them, when the body tries to clean that up, it creates a secondary inflammatory cycle. It causes a cytokine inflammation, and that cytokine inflammation produces all of these symptoms. So Jarisch Herxheimer reaction, it can happen, and depending on where the person is, there can be a window here. Sometimes you can see it pretty close after a hyperbaric session. However, in some cases, it may happen in a little later. It may happen 12, 14, even 24 hours afterward. So let me talk a little bit about these Jarisch Herxheimer reactive symptoms. So fever, chills, muscle aches, headaches, You can get tachycardia. Tachycardia is an increased heart rate. And cardiac issues are very, very serious. We've got a lot of people that are dealing with cardiac issues. That's a big example of something that is commonly misdiagnosed. The symptom is associated with something else. Hypotension. So again, your body is creating this inflammatory cycle to try and get all of this leftover waste from this bacteria. It's the cellular waste of what was killed. But the kill is easier than the drain, and essentially it backs up. So you can get blood pressure shifts, specifically hypertension, and that can cause dizziness, that can cause lightheadedness. And why that's happening, often there's a big disconnect there with those symptoms. I have seen Herx reactions cause skin lesions, skin rashes, and existing rashes, existing eczema get worse. A lot of skin issues have a pathogenic component to it. It's a parasite, it's some type of destabilization. You got bugs in your microbiome, essentially. 30% of our detox pathways go through our skin. Our skin is our largest organ. So when you get overloaded drainage pathways, you can get all kinds of skin issues. Nausea and vomiting. If you have a scenario where you're getting a headache and the headache is so bad and it produces nausea and vomiting associated with that, sometimes that can be a Jarisch Herxheimer reaction. A lot of people with immune disorders, we, in our experience here, when someone's coming in with an immune disorder, we need to make sure that their personalized dive profile is an immune profile and that it doesn't necessarily overlap with an infectious disease protocol. If it overlaps with an infectious disease protocol and they're misdiagnosed, as they very commonly are, they don't have an immune disorder. Their immune system is working just fine. They don't understand that there's something there that the immune system is reacting to. So they say, oh, we don't know what's happening here, but actually there's a pathogen. And here at our clinic, we've had a lot of people that had a formal diagnosis, for example, of multiple sclerosis, and we come to find out that this person is misdiagnosed and they actually have a pathogen. We can have a scenario, very, very common. The stressors, environmental toxins can activate Lyme bacteria. So you can have somebody that never had any issues and they'll get exposed to something like mold. They'll get exposed to something like pesticides. They'll get exposed to something like radiation from environmental considerations. We had a scenario with they're a pilot, and people that are flying, they're exposed to higher levels of radiation. And that causes mitochondria damage. It causes damage to the immune system. And ultimately, that opens the door for the bugs. Now, another issue that can come with Jarisch Herxheimer reaction is general feelings of malaise. It's just a feeling of discomfort. You just feel lousy. You don't feel particularly well. And you can get all sorts of just aches, pains. You can also get bowel bladder stuff, going to the bathroom too much, going to the bathroom not enough, even stomach pains as well. Muscle twitches, muscle spasms, awful lot of things that go along with it. And then again, because these symptoms are so often overlooked or they're associated with something else. So this is a very, very common thing. And one of the things that we specifically do here, we do this with our natural health programs using quantum nutrition testing and DNA analysis. We pay attention to that with our hyperbaric oxygen therapy here. We are Herx literate. We have a lot of training and experience. And ultimately, the goal here is to handle the drainage along with the detox so we can make progress and not have these systemic symptoms. A lot of brain fog is coming from essentially a Herx. The drainage pathways are overloaded. The lymphatics are backing up into the glymphatics. So now if we go ahead and kill more bugs, kill more pathogens. Well, the bucket's already full. The bucket's already spilling over. If we put more toxins, if we put more leftover cellular waste, well, the bucket's just going to spill over. And the bucket spills over into our bloodstream. So detox refers to grabbing harmful chemicals and getting them out of the body. Before you can focus on pathogen killing and detoxing, your drainage pathways have to be open. How the body gets rid of this stuff is it filters it through the organs into the bile. About 80% of our toxins end up in the bile. And the term for that, this is phase 3 liver detox. This is part of how our body gets the bad stuff out. And when our phase 3 liver detox, when our drainage funnel overloads, the body goes ahead and dumps these toxins someplace else. It actually engages emergency hatch to handle the overflow from the toxin bucket, and it dumps it into the bloodstream. So now we have raw, unfiltered toxins, the leftover cellular waste of the pathogen that was killed, the leftover byproduct of the chemicals that we pulled out of the cell, depending on what the body is trying to let go of. And now this is dumping right into the bloodstream. It hasn't even been filtered. A lot of people get chronic headaches. And these headaches are essentially a Herx. They're essentially being caused by overloaded drainage pathways from some type of unhandled pathogen. Now, interestingly enough, I've done some videos on parasites earlier, and they come up often, especially in complex cases. A lot of these parasites, and by the way, if you have a pulse, you have parasites. If you go outside, if you spend any time around people, animals, or eat food, you are exposed to parasites. You have parasites. And the issue with a lot of these parasites is that bacteria can hide in the parasites. The parasites are also sponges for toxins. Now, an interesting thing about hyperbaric oxygen therapy is the oxygen goes everywhere in the body. And the oxygen, the bactericidal mechanisms, even if you haven't killed that parasite or handled that parasite, it does kill the bacteria in the parasite. It does kill and it does help to initiate a detox reaction. But usually, because the body already has overloaded drainage pathways, it's too much. The bile is thick. We get phase 3 liver detox issues. The person probably had what's called mild cholestasis. Essentially means the bile is thick and the bile is sluggish. The bile, our body needs a lot of energy to make it, by the way. So our body also recycles it. So toxins concentrate in the bile on top of the fact that the body drains all of this into place. So the idea here now is one, to go at the person's pace. So going ahead and killing a whole bunch of bugs, if all it does is overload the drainage pathways and cause a secondary set of symptoms, that's not sustainable. Even if you've got somebody who's really, really dedicated to getting better, they're just not going to be okay with feeling that bad that much. So a better approach, a personalized profile, is essentially a low and slow approach, paying attention to drainage, balancing the kill and the drain. And again, killing some of these guys, especially with hyperbaric oxygen therapy and targeted supplementation. In a lot of cases, it's easier to kill these guys than it is to get the body to drain. And the systemic symptoms are coming from essentially an ongoing Herx cycle. So the trick here is we got to get the body draining. And when we handle the drainage, we can handle the detox. Now, there's a lot of different ways to handle drainage. And there are natural things that we can do. For example, going in the sauna is one of my favorite things to do, producing a sweat. Again, our skin is our largest organ. 30% of our detox pathways are from our skin. So effectively, sweating can help our body get rid of it. Water, making sure that we're properly hydrated and making sure that we're drinking enough water so that we're properly flushing. A lot of people don't drink enough water to begin with. And interestingly enough, a lot of the headaches that go along with these Jarisch Herxheimer reaction have a contributory factor of dehydration. So handling the water very often helps to handle the headache symptom. And get this, a lot of times the bowel issues, a lot of times the associated constipation that goes with overloaded drainage pathways, well, that's got some contributing factors in dehydration as well. So making sure we're drinking water, and you want to drink good water. So tap water's got a lot of problems with it. I'm going to do a video specifically on that. I've talked about that in some of our earlier videos. And when you're doing a consult with us, we're going to specifically pull the tap water using a database, and let's take a look at the contaminants. Even if you're not drinking the tap water, you are bathing in it, you are washing your dishes in it, and you do have some exposure to it. So sweat is a great way. Water is a great way. The other thing that we can do is we can use some very specific products. And again, this is the idea of a personalized program. And what's right for one person is not going to be what's right for another person, especially if we've been dealing with a complex case. We can have some real sensitivities there. So handling the individual sensitivities so that we can get better. I hear so often from people that they can't handle detoxing. They can't handle the Herx. So don't. Let's open your drainage pathways. Let's not overload them in the first place so that we don't end up with these systemic symptoms. Let's stay ahead of the Jarisch Herxheimer reaction so that we're not throwing up, so that we're not nauseous. So I've done a video where I talked about binders for better dives. And one of the things that we may need to do is we may need to use some kind of specific binder. Now, this is one of my personal favorite binders. This is in my personal protocol. This is one of the binders that I use all the time. And no matter what, I take 2 of these before my hyperbaric session, and about 30 minutes before, and I take 2 of these immediately after my hyperbaric session. I did a video on binders for better dives. And when you think about a binder, think about the toxin is sitting in a trailer, and then you've got your car, and you need the right size trailer hitch so that it can tow the garbage out of the body. So different binders for different toxins, they actually have different charges. Cells have voltages, and they also have specific pH, and that gets the ability for it to pick it up. So binders may be one of the things that we need to do to help handle our drainage and help prevent this Jarisch Herxheimer reaction. Again, I want to make the point that herxing, at this point, herxing is overloaded drainage pathways. We have a lot more information about it. And in chronic conditions, complex cases, you don't have to herx. If you're herxing, the program, the protocol needs to be personalized. It's missing. There's something else going on there. Now, another example of something, and this is kind of self-explanatory, this is something called drainage activator. And this is essentially food. This is some very, very specific herbs, including certain kinds of mushrooms. And we can use this to essentially create the ability to do just that. Again, detox and drainage are not the same thing. Detox, again, we're grabbing harmful chemicals, we're grabbing toxins, we're pulling them out of the body. But if we don't have the right hitches to pick that stuff up, all we're doing is introducing toxins into the circulatory system and then reabsorbing them into the tissues. And then we introduce them into the circulatory system again. We get all these systemic symptoms. We get headaches, we get aches, we get pains, we get malaise, we get cold-like symptoms, we get mood swings, we get brain fog, and then we go ahead and reabsorb the toxins into the tissues. And it's not really progress. So this is another example of something, and we use quantum nutrition testing to personalize this program right down to how much you should take. This is another, this was a game changer for me, one of my absolute favorite supplements in my protocol. And honestly, biotoxin binder and drainage activator, I'm not sure I'd want to be without them. Some other examples of how we can handle drainage are with different types of tones. And this is an example of something called kidney tone. This is an example of something called lymph tone. This is an example of something called drainage tone. And one of the things that I absolutely love about these particular products is they are super, super gentle. A lot of times, by the time somebody gets to our clinic, by the time they get to hyperbaric oxygen therapy and personalized nutrition using quantum nutrition testing and targeted DNA analysis, their body, their drainage pathways are so overloaded that essentially the bucket is just periodically spilling over almost all the time. So at some point, once, couple times a day, the bucket is full of toxins and some toxins spill over, and now we get some systemic symptoms. And the body handles it, and it makes cytokines to clean it up, and you get all these negative Jarisch Herxheimer symptoms, and you feel absolutely terrible. And then your body processes it, and it starts to feel a little bit better. And then again, drainage funnel overloads, bucket spills over, and we're right back where we started. Handling drainage very often is the first step in addressing these big systemic symptoms. And Jarisch Herxheimer reaction, Herx symptoms, are so often overlooked. The other problem is that just managing the symptom is not handling the underlying root cause. And in some cases, trying to handle the symptom makes the symptom worse because the treatment is causing the drainage pathways to get overloaded more. So this is talking a little bit about a drainage funnel versus detox and how we use are different techniques here in order to not overload your drainage funnel. Now, if you have done hyperbaric oxygen therapy before and you were not able to tolerate the treatment, it's because you need a personalized dive plan, and we need to handle your drainage funnel. I get calls from all over the world from people that had a serious negative reaction to hyperbaric oxygen. And the issue isn't that the hyperbaric oxygen was producing a negative reaction. It was actually working quite well. The problem is that they're almost too sick to be able to benefit from the increased healing and the increased white blood cell activity that the hyperbaric is trying to do. So this is where that personalized dive plan comes in, and this is where being able to essentially handle this in a low and slow personalized approach to be able to make progress long term. And instead of doing, the typical way this is done is they take a big slam and they do 5 steps forward, super overload the drainage pathways, the body cleans it up, and you take 5 steps back. All right, well, that wasn't really progress. So in this case, we can do 2 steps forward and not overload the drainage pathways, and then another 2 steps forward, and we're able to make progress in a much more low and slow approach. So we have a full apothecary here. We have all of these different things to complement your hyperbaric oxygen therapy and create the absolute best opportunity for efficacy. And there is a little bit more to this. Now, again, we have discounted dive packages, we've got wellness programs, and the whole point of this is we want to put together a personalized dive plan. Yes, we're an ANDI certified hyperbaric facility, and we have state-of-the-art hyperbaric protocols, but just because that is a protocol for a specific indication, that doesn't necessarily mean that that is the perfect approach for you. So we've got all these neat tools here to put together a personalized dive plan to help you rebalance your health naturally. We do telehealth all over the world. In addition to hyperbaric oxygen therapy, we have personalized programs that are designed to support and rebalance your body. This is using physician-grade whole food supplements, like I showed you a little earlier. And these are very different things. These supplements, these are not the same thing that's on the shelf at the grocery store. This is not the same thing that you're ordering online. And with all of these, you need a practitioner behind it to personalize the dosage and being able to guide you with it. Again, we are an ANDI certified hyperbaric facility. So in addition to standard protocols, we have all of the research protocols, all of the international indications. We also have multi-level profiles as well. So I hope this information was helpful. And again, if you've got some questions, please feel free to reach out to us. If I've said some things that sound like something you've been experiencing, we would love to help you. I have experienced horrible, horrible Herx reactions. I did not know early in my journey what was going on. And I remember at one point, one of my first quote detoxes, I was so severely ill. And I remember thinking to myself, this is getting healthy. How could I be getting better? I think I feel the worst that I've ever felt, to the point that nausea, I was throwing up, just splitting headache, right down to all kinds of aches and pains. My ears were all messed up from the headache and inflammation. I mean, really, really serious. And I didn't know what was going on. And it wasn't until much later in my career that I got more information. So having experienced Jarisch Herxheimer reactions, I'm very, very sensitive to not helping somebody else to not experience them. And again, it's one of the many, many different things that we do here. So feel free, by the way, to reach out to us, send us a direct message, give us a call at the office. Our number is 954-749-9998. We have a couple of different types of consults here. Our June special, we normally offer this for $585 for a complete consultation. The June special is $199. So we're going to do 2 appointments. Our first appointment, we're going to get a full history. We're going to ask you all kinds of questions. We really want to get to know what's wrong. We want to get to know you and to see how we can make you happier. And then after we take all of that information, we put that together. We're going to do an organ and gland scan to see what's out of balance. And then we're going to put all of that together into a personalized report of findings. And we're going to give you a written report of findings on your second appointment. So we're going to tell you what we found. We're going to put it in writing. We're going to tell you, here's how we're going to fix it. And an entire personalized program to essentially help you heal, detox, and ultimately rebalance your health naturally. So amazing thing. Again, June special is $199, normally $585 for the 2 appointments. And we'd love for you to let us help you. So again, it's been great sharing information with you this evening. My name is Laura Betts. Again, I am founder and facility director of Hyperbaric RX down here in South Florida. We do Facebook Lives every Monday night. So if you're listening to this on the replay, we hope to see you live next week. We've got a ton of videos down there. So again, it's been amazing sharing information with you this evening. My name is Laura Betts. I am the Oxygen Lady. This has been another Facebook Live with Hyperbaric RX, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Thank you, everybody. Safe and happy diving.